Welcome to Pre-Shift, tidbits of wisdom for everyday service. My name is TJ Griffin, and I'm the corporate wine educator for Winebow. We welcome your questions at any point during this webinar, but please use the Q&A rather than the chat bar to submit them. Let me introduce your host. Master Sommelier Ron Edwards has over 29 years of hospitality experience, and since 2018 has been the Director of Wine Education for Winebow. And now here to discuss today's topic, the third of the 5 P's of hospitality, property, Master Sommelier Ron Edwards.
Well, thank you, TJ. So good to be here again. Pre-shift is a joy to me every other week, and it's really great to be broadcasting again and talking about something that really, I think, is known to be important, but often isn't treated with as much care as it should be, and that's the property that's representing your promise. How are you?
I am great. Thank you for asking.
Fabulous. So I just wanted to reiterate, in this particular part of our pre-shift series, as we've gone through the 5 Ps and we're on number 3, we've been really seeking out the interaction of the audience. And so while this might be more natural for you to put some of these things in the chat window, we're actually going to continue to push you to the Q&A section with comments, and because I'm going to be prompting you with images along the way of properties, right? And now that we're on our session of promises being translated through your property, we're basically going to be asking you to tell us, what does this property say you should expect here, and what are your impressions? So start getting ready to do that. Obviously, if you are listening while driving or something like that, please don't. But if you're sitting still, we'd love to have you type in some responses along the way. TJ, you ready to get rolling?
I'm ready.
All right, here we go. All right, so the first thing we need to establish is just the reality of what's the role of property. And I found this image as I was searching for good images, and who wouldn't want to go here, right? Let's go eating and drinking. And, as you're looking at the image that's on this slide, you're already thinking about things that you would expect when you walked in there and looked at their menu, and maybe even what the people working in there might look like. And you're forming an expectation because the building, the font, the color, the seats outside, the open door, everything is expressing a promise to you. The hope is that it's actually the same promise that the owners dreamed up, but often that is not the case. So let's talk about the purpose and role of property. The first role of property, other than housing the business, is to pull clients to you from the outside. So in this particular instance, obviously this is probably spring or late fall, sunny day, but the vines that are normally growing there with the leaves and so forth have lost their leaves. And so, that would add a different image here. But does this image draw you in? Anybody who feels like if they walked by here, they'd be pulled in, go ahead and put it in the Q&A as like, yeah, I'd totally walk into this place and check it out. So the role of pulling you into the business is super important. And so signage, and all the things that you can see from the outside looking in are very, very important. And the next step is to confirm the promise through the environmental elements. So when you walk into the space, is the promise that the ownership is trying to express so that you know what to expect, so that you get your expectations met instead of disappointed. Have they put those elements in? If it's a wine bar and you walk in and you don't see any wine, that's a big problem, right? If it's a brew pub and they don't have it obviously displayed where they're making the beer, that might be a disappointment. If it's a brew pub and you walk in and the first sign you see is a beer company's name that isn't brewed there, that would be a disconnect. Things like that really, really matter. If you expect to have a fine dining experience and you walk in and everything's sort of haphazard and the table appointments are sort of not so nice, then you're not really feeling like you're going to have a fine dining experience. The next would be and this is super important because this is a practical aspect, and that is to fulfill service requirements. You can design the world's most beautiful space knowing that the space itself is going to fulfill the imagery needed to make them feel like the promise is going to be met. and forget that this is a functional space where servers have to be able to do their job, bartenders have to be able to do their job. It's a food service space, and storage is important, and functionality. And so that would be the next part of property, and often overlooked. It was quite common when someone would ask me to consult for them on their restaurant or hospitality space, and they would say things like, we need a better beverage program, we'd like to expand our wine program, or something like that. And the first thing I would ask is, where do you have space to store anything? And it was very common to find out that they had not thought at all about storage before the build out. And so there was an automatic limitation on what they could do going forward with wine, especially because storage and how it's stored, where it's stored, is super important. Next is to set the tone for the experience. And this is along the lines of fulfilling the promise, but it's another nuance. And that is, that's everything from lighting to what the chairs look like. And that's going to set the tone so that you have either an immediate comfort level that you've chosen the right place based on what you thought you were getting or not. And then the last is to create a certain amount of desire for what you offer. So whatever your concept is, your property, the impression the physical space gives to the guest coming in, should give them a desire for something. So for instance, a small thing that I used to do when I consulted for restaurants is I would ask them, I want to sell more champagne. I want to sell more sparkling wine. And they would go, sounds good to us, or they wouldn't. If they said, sound good to us, I would say, okay, here's what we need to do. We need to give people the impression that they should order sparkling wine here. And they're like, well, how do we do that? I said, first of all, preset the tables with flutes. Every table has a flute on it. They're like, oh, really? Yeah, of course. Because when you sit down and you see a flute, it's a mental note card that says, oh, maybe I do want champagne. And then the second aspect is to have a display of champagne cold in like a big ice bin where they're walking by it to get to their table. So that is like two little mental cues that this is a thing to do here. And that is also part of property. It's a crossover between property and menu. All right. So TJ, you all set on the role of property?
Yeah, I have a quick question here. Especially if you're starting out and you're limited budget, or even if you're not starting out and you have a limited budget and you have the constraints of what's available, what if you can't find a space that really fulfills what you think is your promise or what you want your promise to be? Do you have to go back and sort of revise your promise? Have you ever seen that where they just can't make it happen?
Well, there's certainly that reality. You come up with, this is my absolute idea. Laura chimes in, she has totally experienced that. And Laura, tell us more, and we'll keep that conversation going because I'm really intrigued. I think that is a reality, in which case you say, all right, for the budget I have in the community that I want to open this space, I want to do this promise. And then you look really hard and look and look and look, and nothing fits. So you have to decide, do I want to hold on to my promise and wait until a better time where something comes available? Or do I want to adjust my promise because I really need to open this business, and I'm just going to adjust my promise to fit what is available in the marketplace for property? The other is, it is sometimes possible to think a little more broadly and say, all right, I'm going to change some of my budget around to invest in a really savvy designer to try and take the space that I can get a hold of and communicate very clearly the promise to the designer and work from there. And I don't think, by the way, that all restaurant and hotel promises have to be fulfilled with super expensive appointments. Sometimes it's better not to do that, because if you put super expensive appointments into a space, it often will tell a different story than you wanted, right? So if you really wanted to be a mid-market price range of that $15 to $22 a person, and you put expensive appointments in, it's going to tell people this is expensive and they're not going to understand. If you go the other direction and try to go too cheaply on your appointments and hit the $50 to $75 per person mark on your restaurant, then people are wondering, well, what am I paying for here? Because that's part of the experience, right? So, Laura, if you have a second to type more in that and feed us your own experience, I'm more than happy to hear about it, because that's really cool that somebody has had that exact experience. Any other questions, TJ?
No, that was good. Thank you.
All right, sure. Very cool. All right, let's move on from eating and drinking to this slide right here. TJ and the audience, what kind of bar is this? What are you expecting from this design choice?
Extremely modern, maybe too modern for me. I don't know.
Yeah, very modern.
The drinks would all be blue or something.
Yes. I kind of thought, I liked what you said earlier when you said, I feel like I'm looking at a scene from Clockwork Orange. I looked at it and thought, wow, it's the Starship Enterprise. This is a very specific design choice, right? Anybody out there in the audience have a general impression of where you might find something that looks like this?
Ron, would it be fair to say if looking at this that I don't feel like I'd be comfortable there?
It is totally fair.
I'm probably not their target customer then.
You are not, and neither am I, for that matter. At least I don't think so, because this expresses to me a different feel than I'm looking for in a comfortable bar. The chairs look comfortable, but the lighting and the coloring make me wonder what the heck am I getting into here? So I would be curious as to what promise they were trying to get across. This feels like I would only find this in a large metropolitan area. It feels like something in Europe to me, where you have a sense of we're tired of old because we're surrounded by old. In the United States, we aren't really old by comparison to the buildings in Europe that are still there and so forth. And they do tend towards a much more modern approach on their interiors. And it also feels like this is in a hotel, not a restaurant, that this is a part of a hotel bar or something. And there's just this overall theme that we're missing because we're only looking at one space. What do you think about that?
That sounds logical.
I think it'd be interesting to see if anybody else wants to comment from out there, but it looks weirdly cold, even though the colors themselves are not necessarily cold. It's not like it's gray, but it feels cold and overly technical. So it'd be curious as to what their promise they thought they were fulfilling. Let's move on to this next one. All right. Left side, right side. What do these two pictures tell you about what you're getting into for wine in the picture of the wooden shelling? What do you think, Laura, Parker, Scott, Nanette? I see you out there in the audience. TJ, what do you think?
Well, wine, obviously, for both of them, but I think your choices in the photo from the left, the place on the left, are going to be a lot more limited. Whereas on the right, it looks like we have temperature control. We have a more serious list. I think I see some Gaia there on the bottom. Yep. So this is going to be a true wine list that you're going to thumb through. And this is probably maybe even has a psalm on the floor to help you.
Maybe so. I see there's an answer. Thank you, Laura. I really appreciate you chiming in. This really is meant for the audience to participate. The left, she expect good wine, but maybe not great wine. I think that's great. I would drink at the bar on the right. I like Laura already. So what else are we figuring out about this restaurant concept on the left that isn't a concern on the right? And you said it, TJ, but I want to hammer on it a little bit.
Well, you definitely have the possibility of wine going bad, being open too long, being stored improperly. You get some, I don't know what the temperature is in this place, but you have some wine right up there at the ceiling, which is not always the best place to store wine. So
Scott's letting us know that he feels like the left side is more of a shotgun approach. Okay, and maybe explain that a little bit more, Scott. I appreciate what you're saying. Maybe I don't want to interpret it though. You can't read the labels from here, and I don't want to tell you what the restaurant is because that would be too obvious. The one thing I'm seeing in both of these pictures is an attention to detail issue. That the restaurant on the left, the wooden shelving, that is a restaurant that thinks wine needs to be on the menu, but has no interest in investing in serving it the right way. And the restaurant on the right believes in the details of storing wine. And oh yes, nice pickup, Antonio. The glasses on the left, that's a server station. So those aren't wine glasses. Those are water glasses. So this is the server station crossover wine storage facility, which means, the plates look cheaply made, very nice, good call. That's attention to detail. So we're looking at a different level restaurant here too, probably based on Antonio's impressions. So on the right, we would expect to get, upper tier restaurant glassware. And yes, Scott, I love it. Yeah. You're not expecting the same confidence in the wine program based on the fact that you see the wine stored at the server station without temperature control, some bottles standing up, no glassware nearby that for serving wine, etc. And on the right, as you walk into a restaurant space or a hotel space where the restaurant is showing the wine cellar through a glass door or something like that, you would say, as TJ did, oh, these people are paying attention. I think I want to go look at their wine list. That's a really big deal. Yeah, Scott says more of a mom and pop. So I will tell you, I don't know where the picture on the right is. I just found that in a stock photo. I have been to the restaurant on the left. It's not a mom and pop operation. It is a mid-tier casual pizza and Italian place that has multiple locations. The wines on the menu are actually fun and interesting and climb the price tag list up enough, right? There were wines on the menu over $100 a bottle for sure. And they were pretty good choices. They're just taking a very casual approach to their wine program. And as would be expected, the red wine that came to my table was the wrong temperature. And I asked for ice for my glass. But that's just me. Most people don't notice that their wine is 80 degrees, and that's why that feels a little weird. All right. So that's cool.
I was going to say, now that you say that, on the upper left, it looks like that might be the oddly shaped bottle from a Travaglini Gattinara, which is a good wine and one I enjoy, and a little bit off the beaten path. So,
good eye. That was on the menu. Way to go, TJ. Love it. All right, now where are we? What are you expecting before you look at a menu, order a drink, or even see a member of the staff in this space? Take a look at all of it. I think it's well designed. It's pretty, right? Feels good. The lighting's good. What are we expecting? That's a nice pizza oven, says Laura. Yes, it is. Good call. I think Laura is well indoctrinated into the restaurant industry. It is a nice pizza oven. So we see a pizza oven. All right. So we're expecting wood-fired food for sure. Pizza, most likely. That's cool. What else? What price range do you think this restaurant hits? And by the way, this is a stock photo. I have no idea, really. This is us just making conjecture of what were they trying to say. They allow smoking. Well, this is Europe. It's a European picture. That's good. Way to go, Antonio. You picked it up. Even though in Europe, a lot of the places now are not allowing smoking inside. This one apparently did when they took the picture. Good call. You have a higher level of service expectation. And why is that, Scott? Try and explain that for me. It's a pretty casual environment. TJ or anyone else, do you notice that on the left of the picture, and it may not come through very well on the broadcast, there is a refrigerated freestanding wine cellar.
Yes.
Yeah. So they are taking, and then the bar on the left is a little hard to see, but it's got that really cool design with the mesh wire and stuff, but it's pretty well stocked. It looks like there's a nice, I don't know about generous, but a well-chosen stock of spirits. You got the pizza oven in the back. The place looks clean, neat, orderly, and loud. Everybody agree with that? This is loud. This is a come as you are, eat fast, maybe socialize, have a pizza. You would hope that here's Scott's comment at the moment. You would hope with the look and feel of this restaurant that they would have their staff at the same level. Okay, I got you. I understand what you're saying. What I would expect in service from this environment is not necessarily highly detailed, but efficient and friendly. They know their business. They go about it quickly and efficiently, and they make sure you're taken care of. But I wouldn't expect anything formal here. I wouldn't expect them to serve from the left and clear from the right and all that stuff. But they would treat you. I think they'd treat you like family, and that they'd probably be dressed in jeans and a shirt, maybe an apron over their jeans. And I'm not sure what language they speak, but this is not, I don't think, an English-speaking country. Right. So Laura says, at first I thought lunch and quick bites, but the attention to wine and spirits ask you to stay longer and maybe more into the evening. Well done. Good call. So all of those things that we've brought up about this picture before we move on to the next one are just stuff that whether we think about it or not, our brains pick this stuff up when we come into spaces, and our guests pick this stuff up. Don't think that just because we're in the hospitality industry that we're the only ones that see this. We are definitely not the only ones that see this. Oh, and TJ, I didn't point this out earlier, but right behind the pizza oven, notice the fans that pull air out, like this maybe doesn't have air conditioning.
I thought that maybe that was for the cigarette smoke too as well.
Yeah, probably. Good call. Could be both. All right. Talking about a drastic change. Now, where are we? Digging a little deeper into their messaging. This room says what to you? Give a little time for folks to chime in. They've been doing a great job of giving us their thoughts. It's really cool. And when I saw the picture, it said one specific thing to me. I'm going to see if anybody else comes up with it before I do. Scott Carter nailed it. Country club stuffy. What do you think, TJ?
I was thinking brunch. I was thinking maybe a wedding reception, that kind of thing.
Yeah, Laura just said it feels like a wedding reception, which is often happening at a club, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, this feels like the main dining room of a golf club, a country club, a tennis, something that with a lot of members, because it's a big place, right? Well suited to do large events, intended to be pretty and comfortable and a little staid, right? They don't want to be too adventurous. They don't want to be too outlandish, but they are going to meet the details, right? They've got the flowers on the table. The glassware is nicely arranged. The tablecloths are evenly put together. The chairs, look at the chairs in this dining room. Everybody notice how detailed the chairs are for this photo. They are in exactly the right place for tables that have tablecloths. They come up and touch the tablecloth, but they don't change the angle of the cloth. Do you know how hard it is to get servers trained to set a dining room that way? Trust me, I've tried. Parker says, I apologize. I'm not in a position to respond to the questions, but I am taking it all in, and I'm with you guys. Well, awesome. Appreciate that, Parker. Join in as you see fit. There's no pressure. All right. So that is just a little detail in this photo that if you do work in restaurants, you absolutely pick up. But I think our guests pick up that too. Because when we don't set tables that way, as far as our property is concerned, it shows a lack of concern for detail. Because one chair will be pushed way in, one chair will be pushed where it's supposed to be, and from table to table, it doesn't look the same. And our guests notice these things, and when things aren't as they seem they're supposed to be, they become uneasy about their experience. Now, what do you think the menu looks like at this place there, TJ?
It's like the greatest hits of continental cuisine and stuff that people are comfortable with, that they have associations with, fine dining.
Yeah, I look at this based on the fact that it's so bright and sunny outside, and I'm immediately thinking I want to order some eggs Benedict. So Scott does point out here that the tables are a server's nightmare. Yeah, they are. I think maybe the photo makes them look a little closer together than they really are. But certainly there's a lot of flatware, tableware, glassware to take care of. But I don't mind that so much, especially when it's preset, because most of the stuff you're doing is you deliver food and take stuff away, and you don't have to keep replenishing all the time. So it has its pluses and minuses. All right, what about this space? Oh my, we've changed again. Where is this restaurant? What style of cuisine are you expecting? Freestanding building or within another overarching concept? What do we think? The candles are so cool, I have to say. Hotel. Scott says it's a hotel, meaning a restaurant within a hotel, I assume, Scott? Yes, sir, indeed. Check the, for those of you still looking at the picture, look at the window with the shade over it and kind of perceive what's in the background. And that sort of helps us decide that question right there. That floor to ceiling window is overlooking a well-lit nighttime cityscape from an elevated floor. So this is in another large building, and that also is indicated by these giant columns holding up the building in the center that they've decorated beautifully, but nonetheless are giant columns that you're used to seeing in a hotel space or a really large, multi-story building in a metropolis area. All right, so that's cool. From the appointments and the way it looks, what do we expect to order here? What kind of experience are we going to get out of a place like this? What do you think, TJ?
I'm not sure, but I bet it's pretty good. It's definitely a step above. This is not quite the Ritz, but it's not your Holiday Inn either. I think it's one of those kind of cool, maybe an independent hotel with an interesting menu.
Okay. Antonio thinks it's expensive, and I happen to agree that this is going to be one of those places where you're going to have a really hard time getting out the door with two people under $200, just by nature of the pillows and the way they've set the tables and the choice in a non-standard flatware, right? That kind of flatware that's on the table there isn't just for, it is for looks, but if you want to make your inside design really costly, start dealing with things like that, which is non-standard flatware that isn't available everywhere. The pillows in and of themselves, they're velour to velvet. They're, they just suggest posh. Right. And there's a lot of posh in the world today without tablecloths. So they replaced the tablecloths in fine dining in a lot of places by these placemats. And I'm kind of okay with that, especially if the rest of the room is really soft and quiet. All right. So Laura has another comment, which is fabulous. It's just a little bit too generic for me to expect really creative and authentic menu selections, but it does say quality and elegance all the way. Yes, that's why I think this is a hotel. Your comment right there is why I think this is a hotel-run restaurant in a very expensive hotel. I would put this in something, no, it's not the right style for the Ritz, but it would be the right style for something like the upper tier Westin or something like that. Because it just has that feel of we're going to design the space to make you think we're better than we really are, and then we're going to do our best to execute just above average. That's what it says to me. Not too risky. I wouldn't order the steak, says Scott. Maybe not. I would order the safest sounding thing on the menu in a place like this. This environment does not suggest a place where I take a risk on the menu item, because this is the place where I get excited about the risky menu item and then they pull it off poorly. I also kind of get the feel that this is in an international city where there's a lot of travelers from other places, because there's a lot of influence in this room that is not traditional Americana. and go from there. All right, good. Lots of great observations. You guys are killing it. All right, so here we go. Where is this one? What kind of restaurant is this? Asian fusion, perhaps. Yeah, absolutely. Actually, if you read real close, it's described underneath the logo. It's actually on the wall. So that was a little bit of a trick question, but nonetheless, you don't even have to look at that. Look at the tables. Look at the plants. Look at the chairs. What's on the tables that tell you this is absolutely nothing but Asian? Do you see it? Hopefully it comes through clear enough on your screen. Chopsticks. Absolutely. Well done, Scott. And how do we know the price point of this particular spot when they offer you the chopsticks in advance? What kind of chopsticks are there? Disposable, right? I have been to a couple of upper tier Asian concept restaurants where the chopsticks were washed and replaced. And that was really, really cool. The lack of tablecloths suggests slightly less expensive. This is a clean, inviting, well thought out space to me. It looks like it's in a fairly expensive rent district based on the density of tables. Speaking to Laura's comments earlier about not being able to find the space to suit your promise. And it's definitely meant for you to feel that this isn't overly concept driven, meaning that this is so Asian that if you're not born and raised in Asia, you'll still be comfortable. I feel like this is an international interpretation of Asian food, specifically Japanese, that put into an environment where anyone would be comfortable there. The plastic signs on the table, very nice, good call. I often find Japanese and other Asian concept restaurants to be an interesting dichotomy of design choices. So I've been, it's always like, okay, why did you use the plastic thing, but you're using the tablecloth? I don't really get that. They just have a different sense of style and design for those restaurants than we would have for the same concept here, perhaps. But there you go. It's hard not to miss the word Zen and immediately think Asian. But the chopsticks and everything else, they give a message, right? And when you walk through these plants over here, it's almost like it gives me the feel that I'm walking through a cross between bamboo and lemongrass, which kind of sets the stage. I think that they thought this through pretty well, and they definitely are giving me a promise that I think is going to get fulfilled on the menu.
Ron, right, what do you think of the choice to use the word cucina here? What are they saying with that?
You mean in Zen?
Yes, Zen Cucina or Cucina Zen. I don't know what it's.
Oh, yeah. That's a good interest. Well, it suggests perhaps that this is in Italy. I found this picture in Adobe stock photos. So this very well could be a contemporary Japanese restaurant in Rome.
I didn't think about that.
Yeah. I'm glad you saw that. That escaped my eye. Italian sushi. Way to go, Scott. Yeah, could be. All right, so you can have your sushi with pomodoro sauce. All right, let's move on to the next one. This is fun. Now, it's not your eyes. You're not tired. The bottles in the background are blurred by the camera shot. It's an intentional choice of the photographer. Where are we? What are you expecting to eat and drink? Who do you think will be waiting on you from this picture? That's true. Thank you, Stephanie. It's also Spanish. So it could be in Toledo or Barcelona or somewhere else. Scott says this is a Hofbrauhaus. Okay. With all those old bottles of wine on the back, Scott, you sure? I like the fact of the idea of a beer garden with this particular setup, however. Any clues of architecture? Look above the wine. What's up there on the shelf? TJ, can you see that? What are those up there?
They look like barrels.
Yeah, look a little closer. You see the texture on them?
Are they baskets?
They're giant baskets. Yeah.
Ah,
So there's giant baskets holding that used to hold something or are still holding something up on that basically roof that's across the dining room. The flooring is wood instead of some sort of ceramic. That's kind of a neat little thing. We've got these old wood tables with the tumbler and a plate. And what color is the napkin? Napkin's red. So, all right. What cultures or people groups or whatever tend to, highlight their dining rooms with red? Spanish, yeah. Italians. Um, so when I looked at this, I thought to myself, of the places I've been, I feel like I'm either in Italy or maybe Greece. I haven't been to Spain, so I don't have that reference point. It feels like to me that I'm in Europe. Argentina could be. Yeah, there's some places like this in Argentina. And Argentina has that mix of Spanish and Italian influence, so that makes sense. But I feel like I've walked in a village, doors open. This is a casual restaurant that serves lunch and dinner. It's family owned. And one of the two principal family members is the one who runs the kitchen and the other one runs the dining room. Yes, Laura, vino de tavola feels like a trattoria. Yes, exactly. That was the intent here, is that, all right, they're just going to serve you some wine. Don't expect a fancy wine list, right, TJ? Expect local wine and local food served in a friendly but, down home village style. It feels like I would be comfortable here and that I would just say to them, whatever you're cooking, serve it. Because I might not know what it is anyway. Anybody else get that feel that this is drastically localized? Yeah, the non-parallels, all that gorgeous wine on the shelves. Yeah, they definitely. And so my imagination says, Laura, that the wine on the shelves is all local producers with maybe one, like I've imagined I'm in Italy. So like there's a couple of bottles there of Barolo from some time gone that the owner drank and loved and put on the shelf. And then everything else is Tuscany, and it's all local producers of Brunello or Chianti Classico and the surrounding areas. And I'm going to get a plate of inherently local Tuscan food. So Scott says a place Mr. Bourdain would have visited. Yes, I believe that Anthony would have loved this place. And he would have talked to the family and gotten their life history and maybe even recorded it for us so we would know. I love walking in places like this when I travel. Because I feel like I'm actually eating where the locals would eat. So I'm glad that y'all pulled that out. I think that's super, super cool. And by the way, these folks, they didn't put a lot of thought into their promise matching their property because they didn't have to. The promise and the property were inherently linked by the nature of its extreme localization. Does that make sense, TJ?
yeah. It looks like I can feel it just happened organically.
Yeah, it was automatic. It was like, yeah, we live in this little village in this European Mediterranean climate, and this is the kind of stuff we cook, and everything around here looks like this, and it'll feel perfect. Don't have that luxury in metro areas, right? So you're walking by this restaurant. What do you think as you do so, looking through the window? So this is obviously in a metro area. This giant window is here for a purpose. The design is intentional. What are they trying to tell you? They're telling me make a reservation. They're telling me we don't open at lunch because I'm walking by in the daytime. So make a reservation. We don't open till 5. They're telling me that I should wear a jacket. I don't have to wear a tie because you don't have to do that anywhere in the United States anymore, but I should wear a jacket, and that my wife would want to know that she needs to dress up by her definition. They're telling me that I should plan not to worry about prices because I'm going to spend a lot, but they're going to take care of me in exchange, or at least that's the impression. The glassware that I can see in the window is upper tier restaurant quality crystal. So I'm expecting them to have a larger and pricey wine list with all of the big time favorites that everybody loves. Yeah, you're lucky to dine here is what they're telling you. You would be fortunate to get a reservation, although the picture is of it empty, so it would be a lot easier to get that. You're so lucky to get a reservation here if it was taken at night when the restaurant was full. But yeah, that's the intention, right? And what's interesting to me is see how the curtains look like they're just about ready to drop and make it a private space where you don't get to see what's going on in here. I really am intrigued by that because it really looks like in that Roman shade style that they're just about to draw them and you're left on the outside and everybody else is on the inside, all part of that exclusive feel. A very well taken picture and a good design on the space. I don't know that I would want a restaurant that looks like that, but I totally get the point. So let's look at real world. We know this place. This is the Capitol Grill. Just as a reminder, from the moment you step into the Capitol Grill, the experience is one of comfortable elegance. All right. And then their sole desire is everything, and we mean everything that arrives at your table delights you. Are they pulling it off with their space? And then I have one more example. I'm just loving the interaction. So this is going a little longer than I expected, which is fabulous. Unless, of course, you have to get off to your regular job. Are they? Are they pulling off their promise with their designs? Does it feel comfortable? Does it feel elegant? Do you feel like everything is going to delight you? I think that to certain customer groups, they have totally fulfilled their promise in these images. Some people are not comfortable in this environment, right? But, knowing what it costs to go there. Yeah. Yes. Very good, Scott. Classic steakhouse feel and look. Definitely, I think, appeals to men first. Let's see. Stephanie and Laura, do you have an opinion on that? Do you feel like this is a more male-dominated decoration kind of space, or is that sort of a misnomer that we just associate with steakhouses? Maybe a little, but I really like it. Okay. Laura feels comfortable in it. There is an elegance here that I don't think is terribly masculine. They've made some pretty little details like the lamps on the tables, perhaps somewhat, but I like it. All right. So Stephanie's like it. So Scott, sounds like maybe it's not entirely masculine. The Tiffany lamp designs, the little lamps on the tables are pretty delicate. So yeah, I think they're certainly shooting at businessmen, but they didn't want to alienate the ladies in the crowd. It's nostalgic. Oh, I like it. Yeah, it is sort of 1930s-ish, right? Sort of that Art Deco kind of return. Very nice, very nice. All right, so now we're moving on. Remember Mateo? We've talked about Mateo each week. And so this is the sign on the outside. Remember, Mateo is bar de tapas, right? We decided that their pictures previously said you're going to come here, you're going to have Spanish tapas. It's going to have a Southern influence because they tell us that. You're going to be expected to drink wine and sherry. Okay, so here's the sign. I'm just going to go through some pictures while y'all give me your impressions. That's the sign on the outside. This is a picture of the restaurant Busy, and every time I've been here, it's looked like this. So this is looking towards the door of the restaurant. Notice the ceilings and the appointments, size of the bar. Shot looking the other way towards the kitchen. The last shot was from the kitchen towards the door. This is from the door towards the kitchen. That really bright spot in the back is sort of the pass through. And this is, some less busy times, looking across in the daytime, so you can see the banquette that was shrouded in darkness in the first set. And then this is a photo of the restaurant when there were no guests around, looking towards the door in the daytime. So what do we think? Do we feel like Spanish tapas, drink wine, have some sherry, and we decided to be a boisterous environment and things like that, that you wouldn't have a quiet conversation here? All those things were part of what we thought was being promised by the website. What do y'all think? Laura says, I think they have nailed it. Well, Laura, if you're ever in Durham, North Carolina, you can go explore and find out for sure. I think they nailed it personally. It feels like it's supposed to feel. It looks like it's supposed to look. It's not a disconnect from the promise. All right, so what are we summarizing here? You've got to build out your property with intention, because your property is the bridge for the mental and emotional side of your promise to the physical space and the guest, through the objects that you choose, through the paint, through the appointments. They make a meaningful connection for your clients, or they make a really meaningful disconnection for your clients. And that's kind of up to you. And so, Laura, I hope that one of these days that concept that you really wanted to pull off, that you had a hard time finding the right space for, or put it to the side and chose something else, I hope you get to find the space to do that. And I really enjoyed going through all of these slides with everybody, because your input was great. And I really feel like we definitely hit the importance of property through these pictures. And now for next week, we've got a big important change coming, TJ. We're moving to 11 a.m. Eastern instead of 3 p.m.
So 2 weeks from today, right?
Yeah, I always do that, don't I?
Seems like next week, but 2 weeks from today. But yes, big change on the time. We're moving to 11 a.m. Hopefully that works for everybody. What a great crew today.
Yes.
The comments. It really adds a lot when we hear from everybody. So the next time, I just did it myself. The next time is the 4th of our 5 P's of hospitality, which is plate.
That discussion is all your menu items. What are we actually offering on March 9th at 11 a.m. Eastern? I look forward to having you all then. Hopefully that works in your schedule. And thank you so much for your participation today.